Siguiente pregunta.
Next question, please.
Thank you for your film. And I wonder why
Speaking in English.
America doesn't come across in the media. Could you elaborate on that?
Please repeat your question. I pulled that off at the wrong moment.
Okay. I wonder why this other face of America, of the States, doesn't come across in the media more often. The face of America that you are showing.
You know, I think one thing is that images and stories about bombings and death and dead bodies and fire and devastation is what the consumers prefer to be presented with in the papers. One of the things that's frustrating in America is that we have, there's always upcoming protests against Bush policies, and tens of thousands of people in cities across America gather to protest. And then you look in the paper the next day, and even in the American papers, it might be a little, our media is not interested in this story, in the desire for the mobilization for peace. And the mobilization for peace requires the involvement of the media. So it's frightening and it's frustrating because there are the marches, there is the feeling, there is the talk, there are even the surveys that show the tremendous unpopularity of Bush. But the media doesn't do anything with it. It simply reports more than anything. In America, the media's job today seems to be to service what the White House says. The big news is what Bush thinks or says about any one thing. So the peace movement doesn't have the unified major unification and velocity that it would have if it was more powered by the media. The feelings are there. The stories are not, when they happen, they're not being reported adequately. So, and again, you know, on our newspapers, we love to have fire and bombs and guns. It's competing with, you know, the grade B movies. Violence. So there's nothing new about this. It's in fact, I'm reminded of the film from I think the 70s by Marco Bellocchio, Slap the Monster on the front page. You know, you don't put the good news on the front page, you put the monster.
I have to say it was embarrassing that I actually started to applaud at the end of each of the tracks that we heard.
Don't be embarrassed.
Thank you. And I thought it was very interesting the way we learned more about him, and I'd be very interested to watch the DVD for more of the interview, because the stuff about his father I thought was very touching, and I think we sort of started to understand a little bit about the kind of person Neil Young is and what drives him. So afterwards I went to the Neil Young website, and in fact it bounces you to a different website. It takes you to Living with War.
Yeah.
Which I was fascinated about. So I mean, in a sense, you know, you go to try and find something out more about him, and you go to something which tells you a lot about his character and about what he cares about. And then little icon in the top corner allows you to go back to the real Neil Young website, which I thought was a very interesting thing for him to do.
Yeah, thank you for pointing that out. He's referencing the very most recent album of songs by Neil Young, of which I'm not sure if it's come to Spain yet, but the album is called Living with War, and it's a huge, tremendous assault on Bush and on the war on terror and on the corporations that profit from war, and it's a very angry, very beautiful body of work. That's really extraordinary. In fact, I think it might be Neil Young's own response to his own sweetness with Prairie Wind, which is what we had in our film. It's a great album, and one of the songs is called "Let's Impeach the President," and in the song he just lists for 4 minutes everything that we already know about Bush. So anyway, thank you for bringing that up, and it's a great rock and roll album with tremendous ideas. One of the things that's fantastic about Neil Young, and has always been very important to me ever since I first heard his music in the late 60s, is that his songs so very often are songs about what it's like to be exactly his age, what someone his age is thinking about now in the process of getting older. And because I'm exactly his age, these songs have always had a very strong resonance for me. The other thing that's exceptional about Neil Young, and this dovetails into his Living with War album, is that, again, over the years, Neil Young, more than any songwriter or singer or musician in my country, has been the first to write the great social commentary songs. He wrote still the greatest song about racism in America. It's called Southern Man. In the Vietnam War, he's the one that wrote Ohio when American students were gunned down by our own soldiers. And time and again, he's been there to put into words what we care so much about as a society. And with Living with War, I feel it's, just to back up, I feel that when he did Prairie Wind, which is the body of work in ours, he delivered a reminder of the good values at just the right moment. And now, with Living with War, he's again putting into song what so many Americans care about. And there's a line in one of the other songs in Living with War. It's just a simple little sentence, but to me it's kind of shocking in how profound it is. And it also reminds you of another moment in that film, Children of Men, yesterday. And his line is, "Try to remember peace," because Neil Young's generation, my generation, remember what it was like to live in a world that was fraught with war, stimulated by America, and there was a big fight for peace, a huge peace initiative, and for a moment in time, peace really won. And in America, it wasn't about sending soldiers overseas anymore, and for a while peace was the dominant, intelligent philosophy. And then again, since Bush got in, and since there's been this erosion, long before September 11th, Bush got into office, wanting to play with his army, wanting to be tough. So there's been an erosion of the idea of peace as an actual practicable philosophy. So Neil Young's line, "Try to remember peace," is great, and that's why in that film yesterday, there's this extraordinary moment. Have you seen the film? I won't talk. Has everybody seen Children of Men? And this audacious moment when, if you didn't, go like that, just for a second, or don't listen to the translation. This extraordinary moment where the sight of a baby makes everybody stop shooting their guns. It's such oh my God, I love that so much. So what? That's it. That's about the Living with War.
Tenemos tiempo para una última pregunta.
Man, I was wondering concerning that, a big budget movie, if you see a change in policy regarding this portraying of reality in Hollywood.
Regarding whose portrayal of
The portraying of reality you were referring to
in
earlier.
Hollywood films?
Yeah.
Yes, sometimes it happens, and I don't know how these filmmakers do it. It's certainly the exception, it happens sometimes. Though I think immediately I think of the Three Kings of a few years ago, which I thought was a film that really managed to get into that very rare zone of being a proper film, a movie. but can still hold up an amazing mirror to what's going on. This sort of thing doesn't really sell in Hollywood, so we can't even blame them. The corporations, unfortunately, they want to make films. They don't want to make films that improve things in the world. They want to make films that make as much money as possible. So we see the kind of very often pointless films that come out, even some American films that pretend to be to have significance, but in fact you can look at those films and find no significance at all. Children of Men, by the way, Shame, I hope it's okay to say something about the films in the festival, because I wasn't sure if that was okay, and then suddenly there's Shame, I'm like, oh great. But the Children of Men, it's extraordinary to take all these ideas, this just profoundly rich in ideas film, and turn it into entertainment. I think that young people will want to see that film. I hope so, and I think it's very exciting. I wait with a lot of anticipation and hope that film does really well when it comes out, because that will be really a fantastic way of the subversion of entertainment, really kind of making many people stop and think for a minute.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Demme.
Thank you.
Muchísimas gracias a todos.
Oh.
Thank you.
Papa, he left home today and said he ain't coming back again. Said he ain't gonna be nobody.